Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we are here today revisiting the vastness that is No Man's Sky. Yesterday, Hello Games, to celebrate and to, I guess, come full circle for the 1-year anniversary of No Man's Sky, launched 1.3 Atlas Rises. This is the biggest, most insane overhaul and addition to the No Man's Sky experience. For those of you guys who haven't been following along, Hello Games didn't just go back to their workshop with their tail between their legs and cry into a loaf of bread. No, they kept toiling away at No Man's Sky ever since launch, despite the criticism. They made a bunch of content for the game. They made a bunch of changes and fixes. They did 1.2, which was the foundation update, which lets us have this massive and expansive base building system. This is my base, man. I got a teleporter back to the nearest Star Station, that's what it's called, right? Space Station, I believe they're called. I got my save point here. I've got cool Gek dudes working for me all over the place. This little fella's over here is going to help me make this place even cooler. They then did 1.2, the Pathfinder update, which allows you to craft exocraft, giant things like the Tumbler. There's a massive mining rig so you can explore the surface of planets more safely, so you can farm massive deposits of something like gold more rapidly so you can make more money. They really did expand on the game, and they did it all for free, and I really applaud them for continuing to work on this project. It is clearly a passion project for them, and regardless of the criticism, they've done everything they can to keep making No Man's Sky a better and better game. And 1.3 is the culmination of all of that. Again, the biggest update to date. Just looking through the patch notes, we'll go through real quickly. New story. Combat's been overhauled, galactic generation, including brand new systems for wealth, economy, and conflict, so completely modifying the core gameplay loop when it comes to conflict through combat, exploration. Trading now has its own system. The procedural generation system has been completely overworked. We've got new class planets, new worlds, new biomes, new weather conditions. There's more exotic planet types that you can find as you get closer to the galactic core. We've got crashed freighters we can discover and dig out now with our new terrain deformation tool. We can run salvage missions for different guild rewards. There's a brand new mission system that is procedural, that infinitely generates missions for you that can be acquired at Space Station to make credits, to make money. Some of them are trading focused, some of them are exploration focused, some of them are combat focused. Interstellar trading, again, completely expanded. We've got new systems. We can now mine gas from the atmosphere of planets to craft more resources and more goods. The analysis visor has been completely overworked. The user interface has been completely overworked. Massive visual improvements, massive audio improvements. Space combat has been overhauled. We now have low flight combat and flight systems, so we can fly over the surface of planets and potentially crash into them if we'd like to. Multiplayer in its very first iteration. The list goes on, guys. So what we're going to do today is try and take a look at as much of that as possible, while also helping you guys understand what No Man's Sky still is. I don't want people to think this update makes No Man's Sky something that it isn't. I want people to understand that this is a procedurally generated experience, and thus there is not a lot of deep and detailed handcrafted elements. That's just simply not the game that we have with No Man's Sky. Much like Elite Dangerous, except in a much more single-player setting, it's all about what you make of it. What they've done with 1.3, though, is they've made the core gameplay experience more deep and more enjoyable. It's not just a grind for resources. It can be a grind for combat and for bounty targets. It can be a grind for exploration. The planets are more enjoyable now. We have rivers and lakes and oceans on the planets. We've got beaches and shores. We've got tropical locations, desert locations that get freezing cold at night and that have massive heat storms like the one I'm currently stuck in right now. If you liked the idea of No Man's Sky, you just thought the execution wasn't there and it was missing some elements, they've added a hell of a lot more. And if you already own this game, it's in your library, I think you owe it to yourself to download the update, reinstall the game, and give it all a go. If you're looking to purchase No Man's Sky for the very first time, it's on sale 30% off, around $26, $29. Hopefully at the end of this video, you'll have a better answer as to whether or not you want to make that purchase. So what are we going to do? Let's actually start. I'm sorry, guys. It's gonna be a while before we get into the gameplay. If you want to skip to me flying around and miss out on all the cool stuff, I guess I'll put an annotation up there for you. But we got to look at the new interface. We've got this brand new guide. This, of course, is great if you haven't played the game since launch, or if you're playing it for the very first time. Everything you need to know: how to construct a base, how to use all the new navigation tools, how to craft the new vehicles, how to find resources, all of the new systems going on with Interstellar Trade, the idea of installing an economy scanner, installing a conflict scanner, planning trade routes so you can maximize the profit as you sell goods from one system to the next, how wealth affects the different systems, how you can find S-class ships now that are more exotic in more wealthy systems. The overhaul to space combat. You can now actually communicate with pirates and try and bribe them to leave you alone. You can call in defense from the system authorities. Pirates might even disable your pulse engines. There's new weapons like rockets and new shields that you can put on your starship. There is so much going on, guys. There's a lot of stuff here. And we also have 3 brand new features. Once again, that terrain manipulation tool, which I'll show you guys in just a second. Special inventories, which we'll go over a little bit later. And portals. So this is how the multiplayer is going to be working in No Man's Sky now. They're doing their first take on sort of asynchronous multiplayer, if you will. It's kind of like Dark Souls meets Journey, in that you can actually be in the same environment as up to 16 players. You can chat using VoIP with them, using voice, but you're only going to see an orb that represents them. So they don't have physical player models in the same space yet. But nonetheless, you're in the same world. You can explore together and find new things and communicate with one another. It's their first take on multiplayer, and I think it uses a really cool system with the portals and the glyphs. So you're not going to be able to do it right from the get-go, but if you're involved in the game, and you can actually meet up with people and, you know, share your glyphs and travel to different worlds, I think that's going to make interacting with other players and with your friends really cool and really special. We've also got a catalog of all raw materials, crafted products, technology, and portal glyphs. Of course, if they're not discovered, they're not discovered. We now have a log that actively tracks missions for us. Now, the cool thing about missions, right? If you go to the mission vendor, you've got infinitely generated missions, but the game also generates small secondary missions like this one. So I actually picked up a phase coolant blueprint, and it crafted a mission for me. So I can go ahead and track it and figure out exactly what I need to do. I think this was a very, very intelligent route to go. For a lot of people, I know friends who like No Man's Sky, but it just wasn't structured enough for them. It was too open-ended. They're like, where do I go? I need a little bit of, I need a little bit of pathfinding. I need some breadcrumbs to follow. That's very much what the journey log does. The only problem I have with the journey log is that it cannot be disabled entirely. Like, I just want to not track a mission because I don't want something on the bottom right corner of my screen and I just want to go out and explore. That is definitely something they need to add ASAP. Now, we've also got our journey page, which shows us all of our milestones. It shows us our standing and our ranks and different medals that we can earn with the 3 factions, the Gek, the Vy'keen, and the Korvac. And it also showcases the brand new guilds. So these are all tied into the 3 core gameplay concepts, right? Again, combat, trading, and exploration. So going out and selling stuff and earning more money will rank you up with the Gek. You have missions that you can complete that are directly tied to the Merchants Guild. You can farm plants. The Mercenaries Guild, again, missions eventually you'll be able to do for them. Pirates you can kill, Sentinels you can destroy, rare creatures to be found, missions to complete, and vast distances in space to be traveled. Now, there is also actually one other faction, a brand new interdimensional life form that is tied to the game's story. The story has been expanded by up to 30 hours, guys. There is lore all over the place. And one of my favorite things that I've stumbled into so far is the fact that the Gek... Let's go ahead and actually make ourselves a little hidey hole here. The fact that the Gek they were actually awful people in the past. They were terrible, and they actually tortured the Korvacs. They were not good people, and my Gek overseer, who's actually inside of my little, base right now, told me to be kind to the Korvac because the Gek have done awful things to them in the past. I just think that's so cool, guys. I'm gonna try and dig deep down here. Unfortunately, I think this planet is just so harsh. It doesn't really make too much of a difference being in here. But here's the terrain manipulation tool we can... Oh yeah, we need to get out of here, guys. We need to get... Unfortunately, this planet is just hot. Apparently, it doesn't work that way. Some of the frozen planets, that worked out pretty well, but no, it doesn't work out here. But at least you get a quick demonstration for how this tool works. Again, if I want to go out here, now that the storm is cleared, I can also add on... If I want to, I can change the shape and size of this tool so I can make like a big bridge here if I want to. It's a little bit finicky. It's definitely early on. I'd like to see them modified and give us like a smoothing tool, but nonetheless, a lot of you base builders are really going to appreciate and enjoy this tool set. Let's go ahead and save one more time, and we're actually going to make way to the teleporter and head to the space station so we can turn in one of our missions that we completed. We'll grab some new missions and head out and do one of them. I'll show you guys the reward system and how the missions work and all that good stuff. Now, I wanted to expand a little bit more on that story discussion. Apart from that new interdimensional race, they've fleshed out how the story structure works if you're starting a new game. So previously, you get your hyperdrive and all of that stuff. They've redone all of that It's much better now. There's more information given to the player, more lore given to the player. I think if you were at all interested in learning about the Gek and the different races, you'll be even more interested now. And I think a lot of players who start a new game who maybe weren't as interested in the lore before will find themselves almost compelled just because of the way that the AI talks with you and the lore that you do get. I think they've done a really good job with it. It's awesome to see them diving back in and really dedicating a lot of time to building out that story and making the universe of No Man's Sky a more interesting place to be. I really do respect that. So this little Gek fella here, he's going to give me all my cool missions. I'm going to hand in my current mission to get some loot. We got some nanite clusters for finding a missing person. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab another mission. Now, the thing about the missions is they're based on your standing. So early on, you're going to get some pretty straightforward standard missions. You can see I've got a couple more in my inventory. We can deliver an item if we'd like to. We can exterminate some planetary creatures. We can scan some materials for a Pulse Jet Sigma. We get some superconducting fiber if we eliminate sentinels. Let's go ahead. We'll do the sentinel elimination one. Now, they all have their own client, they have a required rank, and they also have a little bit of story to them. So the client is engaged in large-scale mining operations, and the planetary sentinel forces have responded in a hostile fashion. The maintenance and laser damage repair costs are becoming substantial. The client wishes the sentinel thinned and their profit margins restored. Let's go ahead and accept that mission. And then we can go ahead into our mission tracker, make sure that we're actively tracking it, and head out and actually do that mission. So again, the missions start off fairly simple. You do have to remember that they are indeed procedural. They're never going to be like handcrafted and incredibly detailed. You're always going to have some element of that's pretty kind of standard, right? You know, it's still a procedural universe, and I don't want anyone to forget that when I talk about the changes to the game. Is the core gameplay loop a little bit more satisfying? Is it more varied? Yeah, you don't have to just go out and mine emerald for 50 million years just to get the next big ship. They've done a lot of work with that. I do like the changes, and especially combat, man. For so many of us, we just wanted to go out and shoot stuff and actually be paid for it. Combat was just so humdrum before, man. There was just nothing good going on there. Let's try and figure out where we got to go here. We need to protect the miners by destroying sentinels. Now, typically these mission things give us a pretty good idea as to where we need to go. I'm thinking at the end of the day, we're going to end up just going and destroying just about anything. I don't know that this is going to be like a really diverse and crazy mission, so why don't we just fly our way back to our base. We'll engage in some low-level flight. One of the good things about the overhaul to all these systems is that flight has been overhauled. We have that low-level flight now. A lot of the audio-visual design, again, completely reworked. The game is much more beautiful on PC. I'm not running any mods here. It just looks that much better. They redid a lot of the textures for the individual props that you'll find in the planets. You know, a lot of the flora and the fauna. Again, the procedural generations have been modified, but also the textures have been modified. The interior of the spaceships just looks so much better, and the sound effects and the feedback for everything is just, the game feel, I guess is what you could say, has been substantially improved. It feels really good. Let's go ahead and fly down to the surface real quick and see if we can't spot some lakes and some rivers to check out. Show you guys some of the changes to the procedural generation system. There's also a lot more diversity across the planets themselves. You know, just the first system I was in, all 3 planets were much more varied than they've ever been before. You don't have to travel as far as you had to in the past to find, you know, some unique environments, which I really appreciate. Low-level flight is a lot of fun. There's a couple planets that I had visited in the past with some really good canyons to go ahead and blast our way through, kind of like this one right here. And you can see we've got a little bit of a riverbed down here, a lake actually coming through here. Again, guys, still No Man's Sky, still a procedural sandbox, you know? So if you like making discoveries and creating your sort of own story and adventure, but having a little bit of structure along the way, you will really enjoy No Man's Sky if you haven't played it yet. And I think, you know, if the game clicked with you and you just needed a little bit more, I think they've done enough to give us that little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and land here. I think we can just destroy any sentinel. Again, the missions don't seem to start off very specific, and I imagine they'll never become incredibly specific, but there's always some sentinels blasting their way around here. Let's go ahead and open up our scanner, which has also been overhauled and improved. We can see a lot more information on it. It just works better than it before. I'm really appreciative of the changes they've made. The small creature comforts, the quality of life changes, if you will, have definitely been vastly improved. I'm looking for some sentinels. Where are they at, man? I figured they'd be kind of booping and bopping their way around here, but they don't seem to be. Oh, you know what we can do? The good thing about the planet I'm on, if we don't freeze to death while we're doing it, is the sentinels don't like when you harvest some of the resources on certain planets, obviously, and they don't seem to like when I harvest iron. They could care less. I could farm all the emerald for 20 million days, which this planet is loaded with it. It's going to be my money maker early on while I'm doing some space trucking. before I get a little bit more into combat. I'm really excited to do combat. I've done a couple dogfights, so I can actually showcase those for you guys right now while I'm mining here. But my ship isn't nearly as fleshed out as it could be. You know, we've got all those new combat systems and the defensive systems and the new weapons, and I'd really like to get some of those on my new ship. Alright. I was hoping they'd show up. Actually, get to get some gold. I didn't know there was gold in there. Let's quickly recharge our multi-tool. Thanium. Oh, we really need to farm some carbon, guys. We don't have a lot of isotopes right now. See if we can't get these guys to show up so we can engage them. This planet's got some pretty cool flying creatures as well. What are they called? The Gulfe Erizae. We'll have to go ahead and... A grazing creature. They graze from space, apparently. Oh, there we go. Look at, he's coming over to scan it. He's like, what's this guy doing over here? Time to boltcaster... Oh, reload quick. Time to boltcaster his face in. I don't want to actually kill him too quickly because then he won't call his friends. And I'm hoping that he'll get more than one over here. There we go. So again, the ground combat missions, not particularly advanced to start with. I think it'll be a little bit more interesting when you're actually dealing with some of the more hardcore Sentinel types. I want to let them, you know, call in some more dudes real quick. I don't want to go ahead and kill this guy right off the bat. I think we've got one more in the distance. Plus, these guys are good for resources. They've always got some pretty expensive, high-quality items. Ah, damn it, guys. We killed them too quick. Alright. I guess we'll have to farm some more. Let's actually, while we have the cooldown on that, let's take a look at some changes that have been made to the inventory system. So this got a pretty big overhaul. We now have a separate slot for technology, and we also have an additional cargo bay that we can unlock each slot for. These are high-stack, high-capacity inventories. You can fit additional stack sizes per slot. You still upgrade the exosuit in the same way by finding those little pods on different planets that give you the choice, but you'll always have the ability to upgrade a general slot for free, and then the technology slot I think is 20 grand, and the cargo slot is like 50 grand or something like that. But now we can install technology in a separate slot for both of these categories. And you'll notice the starship that I have, which was actually a crashed starship, has damaged slots on it that I can pay to repair. So they give you a much better way to acquire like really high capacity fighter ships and cargo ships early on when you go ahead and find those crash ship signals, which they've always had in the game. They just didn't really reward you with good starships in the past. So they've done a better job of making sure that you can find some good ships without having to spend 10 grand right off the get-go. Unfortunately, that's the end of that. I'm actually going to harvest some carbon while we're out here, because we do need some isotopes to power our mining laser here. A little bit of a milestone to pop up. And hopefully these guys will come back and we can complete that mission. So, you know, nothing really complex going on with the mission system to start. Some of the, I think, like, exploration missions are a little bit more enjoyable, where you go out and actually, like, harvest a certain material. And that's a little bit more tied to the core gameplay loop. I think long-term, we're going to see missions that force you to go out into space and to hunt down some bounties, and that will require your ship to be upgraded. And the same can be said for... I think I hear one. The same can be said for any of the missions that you might do for, like, crafting for collection. So, eventually, you might need to have an exocraft to farm, like, a really exotic mineral to complete a mission. So, it's got a good loop, and it starts off with a bit of a curve, you know? It's not going to just throw you into the hardest possible missions right from the get-go, which I can respect. Oh, let's kill this guy quickly. I'm falling into a hole. Alright, I'm actually going to bail out, and we're going to go ahead and turn this mission in, get the reward that we're looking for here. We're just going to go ahead and use the teleporter, so we don't have to fly back and forth to the space station, which is the great thing about the new base system. Oh, wait a second, what? Uh-oh. I don't know if it's because... No, I think it got disabled, guys. I don't actually know what happened there. Well, it looks like we're flying. Alright, let's get out of here before the thermal storm of death comes in, because that's what this planet's known for, which is why I decided to stay here. I thought it was really cozy, you know? Fun planet. Actually, we're out of launch thrusters too, guys. we're a little bit screwed. Okay, well, you know what? Let's go save our game, and we're gonna have to go farm after this storm is over with. That seems like that's that, guys. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go ahead and talk a little bit more, close things out here, and I'll run a little bit of a highlight reel, showcase some of the other planets I found for you guys. there's not really, I mean, too much else to say. The best thing you can do is look at the full patch notes, see all of the changes. Like I said, the story is a lot more fleshed out. There's just a lot more gameplay-focused content within the game now. It's still a procedural universe. You're still very much making your own adventure, making what you will of the experience. You know, I just love finding a planet like this and experiencing these new biomes and, you know, hiding from a storm and then heading out and mining a little bit. It's still that sort of sandbox experience. I think I actually saw a really good comparison on one of the recent Steam reviews, and somebody said it's getting more and more like a first-person Starbound with, you know, a little bit more detail on the actual worlds themselves. And I completely agree. For everything that No Man's Sky has going for it, you know, you look at a game like Elite Dangerous, and yeah, it's got multiplayer. The world generation, the planet generation, the flora and the fauna that you get to experience in No Man's Sky is leaps and bounds ahead of anything else when it comes to procedural generation. It's obviously not as detailed or as wonderful as a handcrafted experience, but having that vastness, having that variety, I think definitely lends itself to the No Man's Sky experience and makes it kind of special. It's just about finding out whether or not that's for you. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any other questions for me, feel free to throw them down in the comment section below. To say some final words, I really do think if you're into sandbox experiences, No Man's Sky with 1.3 is absolutely worth the money if you haven't already purchased it, and it is most definitely worth the reinstall if you already own the game. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to play smart, remember to play to challenge yourself, but most importantly, remember to play for fun.